Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about DC Stargirl season finale, a great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Immediately picking up after the events of the last episode, Beth's parents were dragged into Calypso's game as he's basically going to use their fear to kill them, and not much Beth and Dr. Midnighter could do. At the same time, the rest of the JSA show up because it's like, right, Stripe is out of commission, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of on Cindy's, and she's like, oh yeah, right, my bad. So they have to go in there, and like, you have Cindy versus Cindy, you have Pat versus Pat, we have Wildcat versus Wildcat, and then we have Courtney versus Eclipso. But every time, like, she tries to hit him, it's like, yep, he's just popping all over the place. It's like, you have got to be the most annoying person to fight. I love it. At the same time, you have Rick trying to repair the hourglass, but no luck. And obviously, Zeke is trying to work on Stripe, but they don't have the parts necessary. But then Mike figures it out. It's like, right, Dad says show up when Stripe is finished, but he knew we wouldn't be done in time. Like, he, and Jakim's like, yeah, your dad's trying to protect you, which I also love him being like, wait, you want me to, help use Thunderbolt against a demon? It's like, actually, not a demon, it's just a monster. But luckily, it took him a very, very long time, but Thunderbolt does seem like he made it back. He's like, sorry, I kind of got lost in Shanghai, but comes back with a whole bunch of food, but they're locked and loaded and ready to go. Only because of Beth, because they can actually see Eclipso past all the illusions. Courtney's able to hit him with the staff, but the fact is that it's like, right, him, like, he knocks everybody back, but her and Cindy, that's the crazy thing, that they actually make such a good team together. But it's like, despite everything, it's like they're putting in the work. It's just like, I just like those camera movements when it's just like, when like you see like in this particular instance, like they did it in that fight in episode, what was it, 6 or 7, like that cafeteria fight, like they did it in the same way too. But it's just like the movement of the camera from a cinematography standpoint, and just like as they're doing their work, but it's like they're not really doing much against Eclipso, despite how much like Cindy's stabbing him up. But then Mike steps in, and I love that it's just like, hey bitch, and he like dabs, and it's like, of course, because Mike is Mike, and he's like, oh, like, kiss my metal ass, my big metal ass. So I was like, hey, but I guess because it's like he didn't say bite or shiny metal ass, so you don't have to worry about some Futurama copyrighted. But it, like, I wonder if that's supposed to like allude to, like, I mean, I'm sure that's just Mike saying it, but I'm also, part of me's like, do you think, just like, because my brain is that, I'm like, do you think that's like supposed to be like a little wink and nod to Bender in some shape or form? Probably not. I'm overthinking it, but nevertheless. Yeah, Zeke's like, oh, good thing you wish for like that engine part, with Thunderbolt, which I also love that the moment he saw Thunderbolt, he's like, Michael's like, Zeke, I got it. He's like, no, don't. Just let me take it all in. He's just like, this is amazing. Like, I guess like going forward, he's going to be like the JSA's like engineer, I think, to a certain extent. That way Pat doesn't have to work on stuff alone. Like, I mean, Zeke has been a big help just in the background the entire season, but I think like going forward, he's going to be like the JSA's like personal engineer to help him work on stuff. I mean, for him, he's like, dude, because it's like, yeah, he knew that about Stripe, but it's like, now what were you actually going to use this for? He didn't know about the whole Eclipso thing, so he's kind of a little out of the loop. But Thunderbolt getting used against them, though, they grab, I like the slow motion. I was like, oh, this is a slow motion for a while. Oh, because Eclipso's grabbing you because this ain't enough to take him down, tossing you into Stripe. Then you have him going after Jakeem, but Rick's there. It's like, doesn't he have the hourglass? He's like, but I do have super strength that lasts more than an hour. Grundy comes tackling, yeah, but then he gets blasted in your chest. You're like, no, but then I'm like, well, Grundy's in that weird spot, because I'm like, Grundy's technically a zombie, but I think there's been instances that he's come back as a zombie. So like, I'm never, because obviously different things have done their thing with Grundy, but it's like, bastard's hard to kill, but also it's just like, it's kind of sucks, especially because for Rick, it's like, nah, like, this is my friend, I help, it's like, but it's like, I don't think he's down for the count, because I think, well, later stuff makes it seem like, no, like, there's more to his situation. We also had this shade popping up again, and it's like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, like, the Shadowlands opening up, it's just what I needed. He's like, oh, plus saving your parents was a bonus. It's like, wait, what? it's like, Shade, I thought, what about the whole death in the theater? He's like, oh, come on, Charles. I have a flair for the dramatic. I was like, you slime bastard. I was like, we were literally sad about your death 2 episodes ago. It was a big moment. You're just like, oh, that was all for shits and giggles. I had to be dramatic. But it's like, yeah, like, I guess a spark of him was still around and fine. Like, it's just like, oh, I'm dead. But it's like, no, I still had enough energy to exist. But now that the Shadowlands, because the whole plan for, because this is where Eclipso is from, that basically he's drawing the Shadowlands and Earth. He wants to blend the worlds together because his energy comes from that. He's from there. So once the worlds are fused together, he'll be able to have infinite power, and that way his plan is to consume all of humanity at once. But then he etches in his real plan, and once again, it is Courtney. He wants to possess her. It's not what I thought it was. I thought it was like, right, he needed like to possess like and corrupt her light. It's actually he needs her light. Because it's kind of interesting to think about, but I guess it's like, yeah, like he needs that perfect balance. Because by possessing Courtney, he has control over the power of light. Because the staff will work for Courtney. Like, even though she's possessed, it's still Courtney. So the staff work. He just needed her. I need a nugget. I need a thread of hatred inside of you. I need it to bubble to the surface. Everything I've ever done, torturing you, your friends, this fight tonight, everything was for the purpose of hurting everyone and pushing you until you gave into that hatred. And now that's all I need to like seep into you. And he does. Obviously Cindy's, I love that like Yolanda comes over to Cindy and seeing her like put her broken arm back together and then like healing her wounds, and she's like, ew, and she's like, whatever. And she's all about killing Courtney, and it's like, no, we're going to get the staff and then we're going to save Courtney. Like, that's how we're going to do this, because the JSA killed the previous host, Bruce Gordon. It's like, we don't have to do that. So but despite everything, it's like, right, only one can wield the staff, and lo and behold, who shows up? Starman. It's like, actually, 2. And so, like, because he's fighting off, it's like, right, you're in there, kid, you gotta fight. The staff chose you for a reason. And obviously Eclipso's trying to tell Courtney, like, she's not loved, but I think Starman grabbing onto the staff, like, gave her even better of a fighting chance, because she starts fighting back on the inside and remembering she isn't alone, she is loved, she has the JSA, she has her family, like, she's not alone in this, and they're able to expel Eclipso. And it's like, holy crap, surprises don't end there, because Sportsmaster and Tigress, as well as Artemis, show up, and it's like, hey, we're here too. And it's like, I'm like, look at that shot right there, everyone together. And it's like, Bearers of the Light, I'd kind of strike now from you, because he's like, I am forever. So Courtney and Starman, Jenny, as well as Jakeem using Thunderbolt to shock him, and it's just kind of like, it's like, I wish this guy was toast. And he gets literally turned to toast. I love the whole thing. I'm like, right, we didn't kill him at least. So it's like, well, what do we do with him? And it's like, we never actually got to find out what did they actually do with him. And like, I guess sealed him away somewhere. I guess there's no chances of using him since he's not in the form of a jewel. Like, you'd have to... It's interesting, and I feel like it's so befitting that he's just an evil piece of burnt toast. So I was like, oh, that's fascinating. But it's like, dude, but I'm just like, look at everyone united. And it's just in the aftermath of it all. I was like, so what are we going to do? Yolanda, like, are you going to stick around? Which Yolanda said, yeah, I'm back. So it's like, yeah, like, everything's going to be okay, because the JSA, like, despite the season tearing them apart in their own respective ways, they are united again. Beth, her family now knows that she's a superhero, which I thought that was so amazing. It's just like, wait, what's up with that get up, and who's this guy? It's like, oh, he's a superhero and I am too. It's a long story I'll explain later, but now her parents are like, oh my god, we have a superhero for her daughter. They're super excited about it. It's like, actually, all this exhilarating stuff happened, and it like kind of restored the passion, and it's like, we're willing to kind of give this another try. Plus, we're going to be there for each other and for you, Beth. And she's like, cool. They're like, plus we have so many ideas, like, oh, like the costume, yeah, nanotechnology. And it's just like, dude, it's like, we're not taking our eyes off of you ever. It's like, so she's going to have she was worried, because I think the roles have actually reversed, because remember, Beth was always like obsessed with like being like, her parents were her best friend. They were like, kind of go find your own best friend. But now, like, her parents are so focused, like, they're going, oh, we're going to be focused on each other, but we're going to be focused on you. So like, the roles have been reversed, and now like Beth is probably like, Mom, Dad, you need to find some other hobby besides me. How about you? No, enjoy your time together. Don't worry about me when I'm all superhero. Like, so I'm curious to see what that looks like going forward. Like, is the suit going to look the same, or is it going to be shifted a little if they add in nanotechnology and stuff? but her parents being her biggest cheerleaders, because she was her parents' biggest cheerleader before. So I like I said, I just love the roles getting reversed there, but I also love that obviously like Chuck is leaving because he plans on trying to track down his wife, but it's like Beth did, and she found out that he actually has a son now. It's like she was pregnant when the JSA thought he was dead, so it doesn't fill the void from what they've lost, but at least, you know, they can gain something. Like, she can find out, like, oh my god, like, you know, Chuck's wife is going to know that he's alive, also knowing that Eclipso's going for good now. I'm sure that alleviates some of it. Well, they thought Eclipso was going before, but still. But obviously, it's like, what if the world needs Dr. Midnighter again? And it's like, well, they already have one, you know, so. But I'm curious, like, is she, I mean, she probably won't. I'm curious to see what happens there with the whole Chuck situation, whether he goes back to being like an AI system. Plus, like I said, I brought it up last episode, because Chuck has the shades. I'm sure Beth is going to apply that to her own glasses. That way she doesn't have to wear the goggles all the time, but only when it's time to go like full-blown Dr. Midnight. So she'll probably have like her regular glasses that work like that. Probably with her parents' help, that'll probably end up being the case. That'll probably be something of their design, or maybe Beth would decide to do it on her own. But I'd like it if like she gets to keep Chuck around, kind of like how Gideon is kind of like, you know, the onboard AI for the Legends. I'd like it if Chuck, you know, but or maybe it won't work like that. Maybe she'll give it a different voice. I don't know. I'm curious to see what that looks like. We haven't really, well, because the AI inside of hers is gone, like it has been, and because Chuck she kept talking to the entire season was the real Chuck, so I'm curious how that plays out. Obviously, Jenny's going to track down her brother. You have Rick burying Solomon Grundy, and you're like, damn, man. But then the Shade's like, oh, funny. The monster that killed your parents, and now here you are mourning him. It's like, what do you want? It's like, oh, I wouldn't discount it. You know, Grundy can come back if you bury. He has a tendency to come back if you bury him in the right place at the right time. And it's like, are you going to tell me that before you leave town? It's like, oh, leave town? Nah. Like, your tea is god awful, but I actually like Blue Velvet. What? You're sticking around? That's awesome. Oh, plus Sportsmaster, Tigress, and Artemis are moving in next door. It's like, yeah, we get to be neighbors. You know, it's like, right. So how are we getting around the fact that your daughter broke you out of prison? We're just, okay, good. I was told earlier on in the season that they were going to be recurring characters next season, and but still, knowing their neighbors, all the shenanigans, that's going to be so amazing. Then you have Cindy talking to Yolanda. She's like, right, you and for her, it's like, right, the whole giving into your anger and stuff like that, fighting fire with fire was the wrong way approach to facing off against Eclipso. And she's like, and I was wrong. But the fact is, you were able to come back. You were able to get a pass despite you killing someone. So shouldn't I be able to? I should get a pass too. It's like, what are you asking for? She's like, well, Courtney will only co-sign it if you're okay with it. So I want to join the JSC. I'm like, what? The entire time you spent trying to be the IS with the first you wanted to join the ISA, then you try to make your own ISA, and now you're like, actually, I want to join the JSA. It's like, what, dude? Dude, I am loving this. This is amazing because it's setting up. Because it's even based on the ending, it seems like our next season subtitle is going to be Frenemies, which I'm like, hell yes. This town it's coexisting between superheroes and villains. That's amazing, dude. I love that concept already. Shenanigans are going to ensue. Just because it's like, right, we all know about each other's secret identities, like, you know, how that's going to operate. It's like, it's heroes versus villains. This season was kind of heroes joining with villains, and season 3 is full blown. Nah, we in here, superheroes and villains. Dude, this show's doing some wild stuff. I mean, I think it's going to, like, I mean, to be fair, like, Legends already set the tone, but to be fair, it's like, the show's only ever had 2 villains. That was Captain Cold and Heatwave, and they shifted over to, like, borderline anti-hero, and then they full-blown heroes. Well, then Captain Cold was technically a version of Captain Cold was used as a villain in season 2 with the Legion of Doom, but still, that's amazing. Which also makes me wonder in the future, do they have plans to expand upon the JSA in the other way? I mean, it's like, well, like, are there going to be any, like, oh, like, is there going to be a new Flash in this one? I'd assume not, since you already have the Flash, so, because I talked about that before, I'm sure they're not going to really touch that, but, I'm curious, like, any other members of the JSA's ranks going. I mean, I think they filled it out enough because, like I said, Jenny's off doing her own thing, but I'm sure they're going to bring her back into the fold because I think her story with her brother is going to be a major through line next season as well. Maybe she'll have little like pop in, kind of like she did this season. I don't know, but it seems like that's all going to be like connective threads. Sylvester's sticking around because he's like, oh yeah, like, you know, I'm not here to take this, because Courtney was worried because she was like, yeah, like, Starman might take the staff back, but like Pat's like, come on, we beat Eclipse, so we saved the world, like, let's not focus on that, because it's like, how is he alive? We still have no idea. I mean, we've been sitting on this mystery since the end, because he popped up, if I remember correctly, in like the post credits of season 1's finale. But it's like, yeah, he's still alive. Like, how are you alive? It's like, I saw your dead body. Like, what's up with there? Is there something sinister involved there? I was wondering if it has anything to do with all that stuff that's related to Jenny and her brother's story. Like, the people being like, oh yeah, the lady at the end, like, that group home or whatever. I'm like, is there some connection there? Or it's Starman's thing its own? I'm curious what that's all about. But he's going to be around to teach her everything there. He's like, oh, like, show you what the staff can really do. So that's definitely going to be interesting. I could definitely see some training sessions next season where, like, she's using the staff and they jump back and forth between using the staff between each other. That'd be pretty sick. But that's pretty dope. I guess we're definitely going to be seeing, probably not a lot, but probably, like, from time to time we'll see more of Sylvester. So I think that's going to be pretty interesting. Well, she was in only, like, a part of an episode because that's how Sylvester ended up tracking Pat down. But I'm wondering, is Mike's mom going to pop up at any point in this episode? Because it just... They touch on it a little bit about, like, circumstances with his mom. Like, the fact is that, like, I think maybe she kind of walked away type of situation. Because, like, you know, so... They never really touched on that, but, like, I guess Mike and Courtney have a similar circumstance with their... we don't know. We don't know the full situation, but it's like, Mike's mom has never really come into the picture until Sylvester went to visit her. But then, if I remember correctly, like, that was part of the thing of, like, yeah, your mom kind of didn't want you either, so... I'm surprised him and Courtney never really bonded over that, but I guess it's like, maybe he's at a different point at her dealing with the whole thing. I don't know. I mean, for a while, she did believe her dad was Starman, but, that's definitely going to be interesting. Obviously, very perfect timing considering, like, hey, summer school is over, so shifting into the new season of Frenemies, perfect timing and stuff like that. Obviously, it's done by design, but so Sylvester's going to be staying for a while. Jakeem and Mike. You know, it's like, right, like, you know, once, like, summer's over, like, I can using Stripe full time. It's like, right, Courtney's got the whole JSA thing, but you and me, we could form our own team, which I'm like, is that a thing? Stripe and Thunderbolt, is that, like, a thing from the comics? It's like, because there's so many, like, little things they'll drop in that you're like, I don't know if, I'm assuming, like, you never know, like, what's a thing and what's not. Like, a great example, it's on the Marvel front, but I never knew, like, Misty, Knight, and Colleen Wing. It's called Nightwing. They're a duo from the comics. Like, it's one of those things. It's like, no, that was like a reference that I didn't get at the time, but afterwards I looked it up and was like, oh, that's a thing from the comic. So I was wondering about, I'm sure the same thing, was it like Stripe and Thunderbolt or something like that? I could also see it being like I was like, not unless they're doing kind of almost like a Young Justice Society of America, like, not unless they're doing kind of like a Young Justice thing, which is so interesting considering, like, the JSA is the next generation show. It's like you're already setting up the generation below it, but it's like, now they're probably like their own separate team. I mean, it makes sense, like, freaking Justice League is made up of so many teams. Because, I mean, it's like, yeah, like, the Bat family is their own team. The Supers are their own team. So it's like, you know, just like that. It's the largest amalgamation. The grand total team is the Justice League, but there's smaller teams amongst them. So it makes sense. But I'm sure more shenanigans are going to be involved. I think we'll probably get more with Jakeem going forward, too, since he is the one that has Thunderbolt. So that's definitely going to be interesting. Training sessions going forward are going to probably be wild. Since I didn't talk about it, but Rick never did finish the Hourglass. He did repair it, but activating it hasn't worked. So we'll see if that's going to be repaired by next season, or is he still going to have to, like, deal without it for a little bit. either way, it's like somewhat back to normal life by the end. Well, at least normal for them. So, oh, can't forget about Cameron either. His grandparents come to him and say, like, right, it's time for you to learn who you really are. So we're definitely setting him up villain status wise. The question is, does he go full blown villain next season, or does he embrace I mean, not unless he works with the new bad next season, who knows? But it's like he might just be off on his own thing, knowing like, wait, like who his dad really was, what his dad was up to, what happened. I mean, even though it wasn't like Courtney went up against his dad, it's like, because it's also gonna be like, wait, you knew what happened to my dad and you didn't tell me the entire time. Like, not unless, because they could easily set, and this could be an interesting thing if they set up the whole like, because Courtney and Cameron, there's already been a thing there, but it's like if they set it up to be like kind of almost a Romeo and Juliet thing, which it kind of already was, but now it's like if he knows who she really is and what she's up to, and then now he embraces who he was as like the new Icicle, that could definitely make things complicated. Because like despite how mad he is at her, he does like her, and finding out like, right, my dad was a bad guy that killed people, maybe he won't co-sign that. I don't know. It's definitely going to be interesting once he to see how he reacts with with this new information, like the truth of who he is, his heritage, and everything. So that's definitely going to be interesting. But another side of things I thought was fascinating. I was like, cool. We got to the end. I was like, I saw a certain name in the opening credits, and I haven't seen this actor pop up. And there he is at the end. All I had to hear was that voice. I was like, Keith David. I was like, hell yes, dude. Keith David's the man, dude. That dude has, like, the most amazing voice, dude. It's just like, oh, my God. It takes me back to freaking Princess Mononoke. That was before I knew who Keith David was. It's just like, hell yes. I have no idea who that villain is. Someone will probably let me know in the comments down below, and that's fine. But it's like, that's very... Obviously, like, that's Marvel, but, like, oh, very Red Skull-esque, but it's like, oh, he's interested in this town because it's like, oh, heroes and villains, oh, it'll be quite the experiment. So, I guess he's kind of a little bit of a puppet master that just likes to see how things tick and how things work. So, he's fascinated in Blue Valley because it's like, oh, place was super... And the fact is, they had the resources to know, like, oh, like, what's going on in Blue Valley, what went down, so... It's like they're going to be taking up shop there as well. So I'm setting up our main antagonist, what their whole circumstances is, because it's not just him, it's his whole group. I guess he borderlines on that Dragon King type of level of experimentation as well. So meeting a bad guy like this might be kind of like opening some fresh wounds. Well, not fresh. Well, some old yet still somewhat fresh wounds for Cindy, considering her dad was kind of that same nature, of that same ilk, so maybe there's something there. But I'm excited. I'm so excited to see what goes down in Season 3. I'm so pumped to see what the story ends up being. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.